Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. So we're going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days for today's second video. This will take us to the middle of June. It looks like we're going to have this rather cooler and more unsettled interlude coming up for the middle of June. Not sure how long it's going to last, but certainly for a time next week it does look a little bit more unsettled at least. And we may well get some rain moving in from off the Atlantic. So if you're in the north and you've had a lot of dry weather lately, you may get a little bit of rain through the course of next week. I'll get on with that for you in a second. Just say that earlier on today we released the ECMWF 30-day ensemble look ahead. That takes us just to the start of July, the first day of July, with that update. So have a look at that and see what you think. Now, we launched our Patreon page yesterday. So in 24 hours we've had 4 patrons donating some money to Gazervids via Patreon. I said that if you donate and become a patron for Gazervids, I would give your names out in the videos, give you a bit of a shout out. So I've got 2 more to add. We did 2 yesterday. So big thanks to Bray. Big thank you to Barry for becoming a Gazervids patron, and also to Jack Lowe as well. Big thank you to Jack and to Barry for becoming patrons for Gazervids and donating a little bit of money to help fund us. So how you can do this, you just come to our Patreon page. I'm going to link to it via the description here at YouTube, and also I've got the links to Patreon on all of the pages at Gazervids as well. So all you got to do is get to our Patreon page. This is it. I'm on the page right now. And you just become a patron, and you can donate whatever you can afford for Gazervids to help fund us. We are primarily ads funded. We're going to be keeping everything completely and totally free of charge. We're not going to be issuing exclusive content on this page. You can use this page to issue exclusive sort of pay to view content, but we're not going to do that. I want to keep everything completely free of charge. But you will get a shout out in videos, and a big thank you to everybody for becoming patrons for Gazervids. So it does mean a great deal. It does help to fund particularly the website, which costs an increasing amount of money in overhead charges and things like that. So big thank you to everybody who have become patrons so far for Gazervids. And well, if you would like to do that, then just say thank you very much to anybody that is interested in becoming a patron for Gazervids. So without further ado, let's get on with today's video. I'm going to start off by having a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. I'm in Glasgow. I'm in Scotland today. So these are the surface temperatures for Glasgow. In fact, let's just have a look at the upper air temperatures first of all. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Glasgow. We're starting off above average there at the moment. Not as above average as it is further south, but nevertheless it's still warmer than average as it has been excuse me, for some time now. And we're going to find that as we go through the next week or so, we keep those upper air temperatures above average as well. Mid-month, that's this period just here, we find that the temperature is cooling down back to average, and then we keep that cooler feel going through into the second half of the month as well. Nothing overly cold or cool coming up, but certainly a cool down compared to where we are right now. And of course we've been talking about this quite a bit in the videos lately. As far as precipitation is concerned, more dry weather to come through the rest of this week and more or less into the weekend, but very gradually as we go up to the middle part of the month, you'll notice the rainfall spikes are increasing. So in fact, the Glasgow, the second half of June is looking rather more unsettled, with quite a few precipitation spikes going through there. Bear in mind, this in the north of the country, in the southeast, it's probably not as wet as that, but it's certainly an indication. What I've been talking about recently, mid-month, we are likely to see change to something a little bit cooler. Right, let's deal with those surface temperatures. So this is 20 degrees just here, that's 10 degrees just there, that's 30 degrees up there, and that's freezing. So we find that these undercooked temperatures a bit, so we find we're around 20 degrees at Glasgow at the moment when the sun comes out anyway, staying at that sort of level into the start of next week, and then a drop in the temperature taking place through the course of next week, around the middle part of the month, and then going into the second half of the month, seeing the temperatures falling back into the mid-teens Celsius. So we're starting off quite warm, and then seeing the temperatures beginning to cool down, and that's been the trend within most of the model output over the past few days, of course. Temperature anomalies looking like that from the 5th through to the 13th of June, coming out a little bit above average for the UK and for Ireland, more substantially warmer than average through central parts of Europe. It's a cold scene across Russia. That's where we've got some really cool air digging in from the Arctic there, and also pretty cool still down across Spain and Portugal, but those are anomalies to average. So obviously in central Spain it's still quite hot because it's summer, but certainly temperatures are a bit lower than average. For the UK and for Ireland, we're not that far from average really, just a degree or so above average in the next week, and this again is telling us that weather is probably going to be cooling down over the coming few days. Precipitation anomalies, perhaps a little bit surprisingly, are a bit above average for central and southern parts of the country from the 5th through to the 13th of June. So again, a more unsettled, rather cooler interlude looks like it's coming up. Over in America, we find that the eastern part of the states are generally cooler than average, and the heat is in these central and western states, particularly through this way just here. So really quite hot there through the central states, and then we go out to the Pacific Northwest, and it does turn a little bit cooler once again with the temperature anomaly. Rainfall anomalies for America look like that. Very dry down in the southwestern parts of the state, so hot and dry down there. A little bit wetter up in the northwest of the states. And then we've got a mixed bag, really. It varies from state to state. So some states down in the south, particularly around Texas, we're coming out significantly drier than average. But in these northern and eastern states, there are quite a few of those states that are a bit above average with the precipitation anomalies. Right, back to home, and this is how things are looking on Friday, when we've got low pressure to our south and high pressure to the north. So we continue through to the end of the week with the same broad pattern that we've been in now for several weeks, which is high pressure up to the northwest, low pressure, very slack low pressure to the south and the southeast, and just nothing really moving very quickly at all. Everything looking really, really sluggish. We go through into the weekend and we find low pressure becoming increasingly influential down across the south. So for England and Wales, I think we have a growing risk of heavy showers, maybe thunderstorms breaking out over the weekend. But the north, we're still really under this ridge, certainly through to Sunday. Anyway, so probably quite a bit of dry weather continuing for Scotland. But for England and Wales, a growing risk of showers breaking out. That's Monday next week, and by then low pressure is just in situ over the top of the country. So you would expect showers, long spells of rain, and possibly thunderstorms to be coming through there quite widely across the country. Into the rest of next week, we start getting a little bit more mobility coming along. This is just signs that the jet stream is beginning to reorganise itself. So this is the middle of next week, Wednesday 13th of June, with low pressure starting to head in from off the Atlantic this time. That will be bringing our first sort of Atlantic wet weather, bands of rain off the Atlantic, the first of those that we've had for quite a long time. And then we go up to day 10, and we still look quite unsettled, really, with low pressure never too far away, although already we're trying to reach the Azores high back up to the southwestern part of the country. And actually, as we go beyond day 10 into the extended range of the GFS, it's not long at all before the Azores high is starting to throw up another ridge. So here we are at 300 hours away, Sunday 17th of June, for example, and this ridge is building up from the Azores once again, turning the south, anyway, England and Wales, mainly dry and warm. Scotland and Northern Ireland will still have influence from that low pressure, so it's still a little bit more unsettled up there, but it's just the idea fear that probably this more Atlantic interlude isn't going to last all that long, and the GFS particularly is very keen to start trying to get us back into high pressure anticyclonic weather. That's how we finish up this GFS run Thursday 21st of June, with high pressure across Central Europe, low pressure out to the northwest. We're trying to pull up some really quite warm air indeed from the south once again. So it could well be that although we may turn things, or I think we will turn things a little bit more unsettled, cooler and changeable from the Atlantic next week, it's probably not going to last all that long. This is the ECMWF for Friday. Again, everything looking very, very slow moving and slack. It takes longer to bring this low pressure up from the south as well. So this is Monday, where the low pressure is still across the northern parts of France, still not really having any influence across the country. So the ECM would imply a mainly dry and quite warm weekend. However, next week this low pressure does move up from the south. It does get its act together. So by the middle of next week, we've got both the GFS and the ECM now in agreement that we start to turn properly unsettled, with low pressure out to the west now and starting to bring in more of an Atlantic flow. And so that's how we go up to day 10. It does look quite unsettled. We've got a trough of low pressure over the country, so you'll expect showers, longer spells of rain. We've also gone on to the cool side of the jet stream there as well, by the way. So the jet, over the past few weeks, the jet has generally been up there and also going down there. But what's happening by day 10 on that ECM chart is that the jet stream is going rather like that. So we are onto the cool side of the jet as well, within that trough of low pressure. So that's a properly cooler and more unsettled spell of weather coming up through the course of next week. And then finally, we've got the GEM. So again, the weekend, everything looks very slack, very slow moving, nothing really happening. The jet stream is way to our north, so it's being pushed through. It just looks perhaps increasingly showery, but quite warm, and especially for central northern areas, mainly dry. Early next week, we start turning things a little bit more unsettled. It's slower to do it than the other two models, but eventually, by day 10, we have got the Atlantic starting to break through. So the jet stream's coming back southwards. We're bringing showery bursts of rain, at least across the country, and temperatures are taking a tumble as well. So we're still on course by the look of it for this more unsettled and changeable spell of weather through the course of next week, around the middle part of the month. We've been highlighting it for quite some time. The models are still indicating it. So we've got more warm weather to come through the rest of this week, probably lasting into the weekend. Things may turn increasingly showery over the weekend, especially for the south. Might have thunder. Early next week, probably thunder and showery bursts of rain spreading north across the whole country. And then the Atlantic pushes through, and the middle and second half of next week may be seeing more mobility to weather pattern than we've had for a very long time, with areas of low pressure starting to bring cloud and rain in from the Atlantic. The caveat is that it looks like it could well be quite short-lived, this. So, be a bit of a change of weather pattern, and then probably back to more high pressure from the Azores into the second half of the month. Obviously, we'll see how that goes. Right, don't forget to check out the ECMWF 30-day ensemble update. We released that this morning. This evening, I'm going to have the third update for Le Mans. So if you're interested in that, come back this evening for that. And don't forget to check out the Patron page if you would like to become a Gazworthy's patron. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.